before answering that question, I think that I first want to discuss how we got where we are today with that regulation. Because if you look back since 2017, when the European Commission issued its communications on SAPs and standards, it made clear what the agenda was. It wanted greater transparency with respect to SEPs, it wanted to introduce a mechanism to set aggregate royalty rates, and it wanted to introduce some alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. And since then it has pursued that agenda very consistently. That is demonstrated by the essentiality check pilot project, the establishment of the SEP expert group, the pilot project, and the IP program from the European Commission. If you look at how the large SEP licensors have responded to that, they have objected to everything. They have said, we wanted to maintain the status quo. We don't want to see any change because SEP licensing has worked well for the last couple of decades. So why do we need to change? But at the same time, they asked the Commission to look into holdout by implementers, so indicating that apparently not everything was going well. Now the SEP regulation has been published, the position of the large SEP licensors has not basically changed. They say there's no need for the regulation, it is too big a step forward, it is unproven mechanisms, creating additional cost, creating additional certainty, and moreover the implementation is put into the hands of an organization that has no experience with SAPs. In my view, I think maybe it's better to look at the regulation itself, because fighting that will be an uphill battle. And I think the better approach would be to see how the regulation can be made more balanced. And just to give you one example, in the draft regulation there is a mechanism introduced for establishing an aggregate royalty rate. There are some issues with respect to that, but you can solve that. But there is an unbalance, there's something missing there. Because the implementers have used the argument that as long as they don't know the aggregate royalty rate, they have difficulty in making their business plans, and they may be reluctant to develop and manufacture standard compliant products. But if there would be an aggregate royalty rate determined, then, of course, that argument is taken out of the hands of the implementers. And then they should take licenses that they would need for their products that they're going to develop and manufacture. If they don't seek those licenses, then they would immediately be an unwilling licensee. And they should make provisions, to the extent needed, for all the royalties that they need to pay. And that is something that is not included in the regulation, and that is the unbalance that is there. But if you would focus on improving that, all these things, and bring that balance, then I think it would be very beneficial for SAP licensors. If the regulation is ultimately approved and implemented, which will still take a while, I think that it will contribute to creating a smoother SEP licensing regime in Europe. Other regions of the world will look into that as well, and they are looking in ways of introducing similar things. And hopefully that ultimately will lead to a global system where there is a standardized approach for how to do these things. And that will, I think, will benefit everyone that's involved in SAP licensing globally. SAPs, they most likely are. I've been a promoter of patent pools for decades. I've been involved in many of those. I've established a large patent pool myself. So I believe that patent pools are a very good solution for SAPs. They lower transaction cost and offer transparency and a transparent rate to everyone. Are they a solution for non-standardization patents? I don't believe so, because that you get a pool where you put in every possible patent that relates to a certain technology or certain product, but that will not work, because that we have seen efforts in that area that have not become very successful, and I think they will stay problematic. Two things need to happen. What I see that still happens frequently is that companies, IP departments are building IP portfolios and they don't know what to do with it. There is no specific purpose behind it. And yeah, what they need to do is first consider, if they would build a portfolio, how that portfolio would benefit the business, how it would create or could create value for that business. And many IP departments still don't do that. They say that they are aligned, that their IP strategy is aligned with the business strategy, but often that does not cover more than agreeing on the number of patent filings they will make next year, and then mostly based on budgetary considerations. So they need to think about the purpose first and then build a portfolio that serves that purpose as best as possible. And that means that in practice they will need to focus more than they do today. Today they just filter out the best patents out of the incoming stream that they don't control. But if they would take a more proactive approach, they can build a portfolio that will create more value for their businesses in the future. Then the second thing that needs to happen is they should ask themselves, well, is our IP strategy working? Did we deliver the benefits to the business? Did we create value for the businesses? And then you need to determine, well, what is the value that we actually created with that portfolio? And that means that you have to do IP valuation in various ways. There are various methods for that. But many companies still don't do that. They still need to take those two steps to really become closer with the business.